American Pit Bull Terrier. For most of American history, the most banned dog in the world was the one parents trusted to sleep next to their children. The Pit Bull was pulled from 19th century Britain, crossbred from bulldogs and terriers, and dropped into the ugliest human entertainment imaginable. Bull baiting, then pit fighting, then back out again into American farms and family porches like nothing happened. Sergeant Stubby, the most decorated war dog in U.S. history, was a pit bull. He appeared on magazine covers. Children posed beside him. He wore a tiny uniform, and America loved him for it. The breed was called a nanny dog, not sarcastically, but accurately, because it was loyal to humans with an almost pathological consistency. Here's the thing, nobody in the legislation meetings wanted to discuss. The pit bull was never bred to be dangerous to people. It was bred for animal-directed aggression, while remaining completely handleable mid-fight by its owner. That distinction was intentional. Then it got handed down through the wrong generations, into the wrong hands, and the distinction got buried. Over 900 U.S. jurisdictions have enacted breed-specific bans. Studies consistently show those bans do not reduce bite incidents. The CDC removed breed from its bite fatality research because the identification data was too unreliable. Most reported pit bull attacks involve misidentified breeds. The dog didn't change. Somewhere right now, one is asleep on a couch it's not supposed to be on, completely unbothered by its international reputation. The hands holding the leash were always the variable. Nobody wanted to legislate those. Cane Corso. The Roman army didn't just march with soldiers. Descended from the Canis pugnax, the Roman war dog, the Cane Corso was deployed in actual military campaigns. Armored, sent ahead of infantry, used to break enemy lines before the humans arrived. After Rome fell, the breed transitioned to livestock guarding and hunting across southern Italy, came within a generation of extinction in the mid-20th century, and was pulled back from the edge by Italian breeders in the 1970s, who understood what was almost lost. What makes the Cane Corso distinct from every other large breed is its quality of stillness. It doesn't bark much. It doesn't posture or perform aggression. It assesses, decides, and acts. And the gap between assessment and action is shorter than you'd like. Experienced handlers describe something almost unnerving in its attentiveness. A dog that reads a room the way a person reads a room, tracking emotional temperature with unsettling accuracy. Here's what nobody mentions when they discuss whether the Cane Corso is dangerous. A nervous owner produces a reactive dog. A calm, structured owner produces something closer to a very large, very serious shadow that would put itself between you and anything in the world. The dog that once guarded the edges of an empire now guards suburban driveways. The job got smaller. The dog didn't notice. Dogo Argentino. One man decided Argentina needed a dog that could kill a puma, and he spent his life building it. Doctor. Antonio Norris Martinez, an Argentine surgeon, began in the 1920s by crossbreeding the now extinct fighting dog of Cordoba with 10 other breeds: Great Dane, Boxer, Bull Terrier, Irish Wolfhound, among others, refining across decades for endurance, pain tolerance, and cooperative hunting instinct, capable of running down wild boar and pumas across the open pampas. He was killed in 1956, reportedly by a poacher. His dog was with him. The dog survived. What makes the Dogo distinct is that it was never bred for solo aggression. It was built for pack hunting, which requires high impulse control and social intelligence. The ability to work alongside other dogs toward a shared target without turning on them. For a breed currently banned in the UK, Australia, and several other countries as a dangerous fighting dog, that detail is almost darkly funny because the Dogo Argentino was specifically not bred for fighting. It was bred to hunt the apex predators of South America. A man gave his life building the perfect hunting companion. The dog outlived him. Countries then banned the result of that life's work based on its appearance. The pumas, for the record, remain unbothered. Burbull. South Africa needed a dog that could hold a leopard until the farmer arrived, so from the 17th century onward, Dutch, German, and Huguenot settlers crossbred European Mastiffs with local African dogs and let the environment do the rest. Burbull means farmer's dog. Only the animals that survived predator encounters, disease, and brutal terrain were kept for breeding. Natural selection running a quality control process that no human program could have designed as efficiently. The result is a dog with a bite force estimated between 450 and 800 pounds per square inch, depending on the study. A bone-crushing grip that evolved not as intimidation, but as practical necessity, because the alternative in the African bush was simply dying. Here's the twist. The same animal that held a leopard at bay was historically used as a babysitter on remote farms, where the nearest neighbor was hours away. It slept beside infants. It was trusted with children the way you trust something that has already proven it would die for you. Multiple countries have since banned the Burbull outright. The leopards have not been consulted on whether that was a wise decision, but the data from the farms suggests they noticed. Caucasian Shepherd. This dog was not domesticated so much as it agreed temporarily to tolerate you. The Ovcharka emerged from the Caucasus Mountain region, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the high passes between them. Over thousands of years of guarding livestock against wolves and bears with minimal human oversight. Unlike breeds shaped through close daily contact with people, the Ovcharka developed much of its behavioral architecture in near isolation, solving predator problems independently in darkness and cold that made human intervention impractical. It is a massive animal, storm gray and dense with fur, moving through mountain air with the unhurried weight of something that has never had a reason to rush. What makes it genuinely unsettling is not aggression, it is autonomy. The Ovcharka does not wait for a command in a crisis. It evaluates, decides, and acts, which is exactly what you need when a wolf pack arrives at 2 a.m. and there is no human in reach. In an urban environment, that same autonomous threat assessment runs on the same logic, applied to different stimuli, with no adjustment for context. It bonds with profound depth to those it claims. The terror is that it decides who those people are, and the criteria are not always legible to the humans involved. It has been doing this for 4,000 years. It will not stop because you have a nice fence. Perro de Presa Canario. In 2001, a Presa Canario killed a woman named Diane Whipple in the hallway of her own apartment building in San Francisco. Her neighbor owned the dogs. Her neighbor was a lawyer. Developed in the Canary Islands as a cattle-working and historically fighting breed, the Presa Canario nearly went extinct in the mid-20th century before being revived in the 1970s. A large, low-set Mastiff type with a territorial drive, so finely tuned it functions less like aggression and more like policy. The dogs in the San Francisco case had been deliberately trained as weapons by their owners, who were later convicted of second-degree murder and manslaughter respectively. One of the first cases in U.S. legal history where a dog attack resulted in a murder conviction for the owner. The breed absorbed the infamy. The legal precedent that followed pointed for once in the right direction, at the humans. The Presa Canario was the instrument. The lawyers were the architects. It is currently banned in several countries and perfectly legal in most of the United States. The paperwork, as usual, is catching up slowly. Kangal. The highest confirmed bite force of any dog ever formally measured, belongs to a breed whose primary job is to not bite anything. The Kangal was developed over centuries in the Sivas province of Turkey, specifically the Kangal district, to guard Anatolian livestock against wolves and bears through deterrence rather than combat. Its behavioral strategy is deliberate, position between flock and predator, vocalize, escalate slowly, and only commit to physical engagement when the threat refuses to leave. The bite force, estimated at approximately 743 pounds per square inch by some measurements, higher than many large wild predators by some comparisons, though methodology varies across studies, exists as a last resort on an animal specifically bred to avoid needing it. Here's the part that actually matters. The Congal is currently deployed in Namibia and other African nations as a conservation tool, placed with farming communities specifically to deter cheetahs without killing them. Its presence alone has measurably reduced illegal cheetah culling by farmers who previously saw lethal response as their only option. The most powerful bite on this list belongs to the dog least interested in using it. It has never read a headline about itself. It is, at this moment, standing between a flock and a tree line somewhere in Anatolia, doing the only thing it was ever asked to do. Tosa Inu. This dog was bred to fight in complete silence. Not because it was trained to suppress sound, but because the culture that built it considered noise during combat dishonorable. The Tosa emerged from the Tosa region of Japan in the mid-19th century, crossbred from native Japanese dogs with Western breeds, including the Mastiff, St. Bernard, Great Dane, and Bull Terrier, refined under a ritualistic fighting tradition with strict rules. A dog that yelped, whimpered, or showed visible distress was disqualified. Over generations, breeders selected specifically for the suppression of pain and stress vocalization. The result is a dog with no behavioral telegraph, no growl before the decision, no whimper that signals the threshold approaching. The warning signs that precede a serious incident in virtually every other breed are, in the Tosa, simply absent. Not because the dog feels nothing, but because it was bred across generations, not to tell you when it does. Behavioral researchers describe it not as a cold animal, but as an animal that cannot ask for help. Banned in the UK, Australia, and several other countries. Regarded in Japan, where it was created, as a national cultural artifact. Both of those things are true simultaneously, and neither of them is the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part is what it says about us, that we looked at an animal's capacity to cry out, and decided that was the thing to remove. Wolf dog. This is not a dog that thinks it's a wolf. This is a wolf that was asked, gently, to try being a dog, and has not fully committed to the answer. A wolf dog is the offspring of a domestic dog and a wild wolf, typically a gray wolf, existing not as a breed, but as a spectrum. Low-content hybrids with minimal wolf genetics behave largely like dogs. High-content hybrids do not. What separates a dog from a wolf behaviorally is not size or strength. It is 15,000 years of co-evolutionary domestication that rewired dogs to follow human eye gaze, read human facial expression, and defer to human social hierarchy. Wolves did not receive that inheritance. A high-content wolf dog did not receive it cleanly either. It watches you the way a wolf watches anything in its environment, as a factor to be assessed, not a partner to be trusted. The most common victims of serious wolf dog incidents are the owners themselves. People who anthropomorphized the animal, who treated it as a dog, who believed the bond they felt was symmetrical. It usually was a bond. It simply operated on different terms than the human understood, and the gap between those terms is where the incidents live. Golden-eyed, enormous, moving through a suburban backyard with the fluid silence of something that remembers open ground. You wanted a wolf. You got something that remembers being one. That's not the animal's problem. Every dog on this list was built by a human decision. A war, a farm, a ring, a mountain pass in the dark, a surgeon with a rifle, and a dream about pumas. None of them arrived dangerous. They were assigned it, by function, by fear, by negligence, or by a failure to understand the distance between what we wanted to make and what we actually made. The pit bull was legislated into infamy, while the hands that shaped it walked free. The Tosa was refined into silence so that our entertainment would be cleaner. The wolf dog lives in a gap we created and cannot close. Looking back at us from a middle distance, we put it in. Taken together, this list is not a catalog of dangerous animals. It is a record of dangerous certainty. The certainty that we knew what we were building, and the consistent generational refusal to take responsibility when we were wrong. The most dangerous thing on this list was never the dog. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now